So Tom, one of the big questions that comes up, especially when you have teenagers, and having worked in youth ministry for so many years, it's a question I would get as a youth leader, is, you know, how do you engage in conversation with your teenagers? They live in a completely different alien culture to most parents.
Probably text them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, send them a text.
Or get one of their friends to text them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
so how does that work?
Well, with our teens, we didn't have text back in the old days.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But the answers were still the same. How was school? How'd it go? How was your exam? You know, and how do you get past the grunt, right? And it's a lot of work to try and get past the grunt. So you got to ask a bit different kind of questions. So I would go like, you know, best day. What was the worst class you had today? Best class you had today. Who was the biggest jerk in school today? Who was the nicest, kindest person in school today?
Yeah.
Did you have to punch anybody in the face today because they really ticked you off? Yeah. And get more and more extreme in my silliness. So or like, you know, did somebody hurt you today that I have to go punch them in the face for you? Yeah. Which communicates that I love you and I'm on your side and I'm clearly not nonviolent. Yeah. So that's not true. But just we have a bit more fun with it. Yeah. And sometimes when you're really out there, it helps them go like, no, but actually this happened, right? Yeah. And brings it back. It rubber bands a little bit. That's kind of the fun part of trying to cultivate and pull out from the kids. Yeah. In those, you know, trying to get those after-school conversations, dinner-time conversations. Yeah, absolutely. I know. One of the things that we used to discuss a lot is, you know, quantity and quality. Yeah. In time and spending time with your kids. Can you kind of break that down a little bit and give some examples of the quality and the quantity? Yeah. You know, I heard somebody the other day say, like, maybe, you know, 2 hours of devotions one day is better than, you know, 10 minutes or 5 minutes for 7 days. And I mean, no preacher ever told me that. You had to be every day for 4 hours. That's right. You know, but sometimes, you know, you don't get some good conversation. Ethan and I would go on long bike rides. You know, and in between we'd stop and, you know, have breakfast and read the newspaper. And in that long period of time, the boys and I would work together for long periods of time, regularly. And somewhere in the midst of that working together, conversations would come up. Michelle, I would take Michelle out on daddy-daughter dates, and if something comes up, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But it really can't be about your need to want to hear what your kids are doing. You know? Let's talk now because I need it, right? Kids want to meet your needs. Like, I don't think so. But as they understand how interested you are in them and that you care about them and it's about them, that'll go a long way. And I think the reality is they're not going to ever talk to you about some of the things you want them to talk to you about. Yeah. They're going to need an accountability partner. They're going to need a life group. They're going to need a small group of not just their peers, because their peers are just as ignorant as they are, and certainly not the internet, God forbid. But some godly peers with a godly adult leader. This is called a youth group. Junior youth and youth group, because that's where some of the questions, they don't even want to admit that they're thinking the thoughts they're thinking to their mom and dad, who think they're wonderful and lovely and beautiful and fantastic. And they're like, if my mom and dad knew what I was thinking and being tempted with, I'd be so embarrassed. They'd be so embarrassed. They'd think bad of me. But they're sinners just like all the rest of us. Of course they're struggling. Youth group's the place where they can be honest with their peers, or at least their peers will be honest with them. You know, they don't even have to say anything. Let him confess the sin, the same sin I got. And you know, we find it's a safe place, and you know, get some godly counsel and some godly support and encouragement. Man, I tell you, I would not ever want to parent a child without having that kind of support that comes from a church youth group.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the rest of our segments on parenting over on our channel. For the full parenting seminar, click the link in the description.